Well, yes, it's fairly embarrassing for the government, isn't it? This whole plan has been fairly chaotic in the implementation of trying to get 500 migrants on board this barge, the Bibby Stockholm, which is docked off the coast of Portland in Dorset. Now, another setback. My colleague Ali Fortescue has discovered that migrants are now being taken off the barge today because Legionella bacteria has been discovered in the water supply on board the barge. Now, it's important to stress that no migrants have fallen sick. No one has actually developed Legionnaires disease, which can be a very serious condition. We understand that this is being done as a precautionary measure and very much in line with the HSA guidance with dealing with these cases, and indeed going beyond that guidance because we're told this is a precautionary measure. But we understand that the test that was carried out on the water within the pipes on board the barge was initially carried out as a standard procedure on the 25th of July. Those tests didn't actually come back until the 7th of August. So that was on Monday, the day, in fact, the first migrants, 15 or so, actually moved on board, which did detect this bacteria. We're told that the standard procedure then is for more testing to be carried out, and we understand that the results are still being waited for those tests. Meetings are being carried out, we understand, between all the local and national relevant authorities to work out the correct procedures and the next steps for dealing with this. But really, this is yet another pretty embarrassing setback for the government. This whole plan has been rather beset with problems from the beginning. The arrival of the first migrants were delayed after concerns were raised by the Fire Brigades Union, who described it as a potential death trap. There was anger from the local community. Dorset MP Chris Loader raised concerns over what he saw as potential overcrowding because the boat was initially designed to hold 200 or so people. 500 are being held there now. 50 people meant to be board on Monday. In the end, only 15 did. 20 of them held back because of legal challenges. Now, the government do insist that the numbers are going to increase gradually. But also then we had another revelation that a local mayor, Carolyn Parks, who was previously a Labour parliamentary candidate, it's worth saying, is bringing legal action over claims that the barge didn't get the required planning permission. Now, the government insists all the required safety, health and safety, fire safety checks were carried out, and this is part of that ongoing process, we understand. They say this is a tried and tested approach. It's been done in Europe, and this offers better value for money for the taxpayer because the underlying figures that we're given by the government is that the cost of putting up more than 50,000 or so people in that backlog waiting for their decisions on their asylum claims is £6 million a day, 50,000 of them currently in hotels. So the government's policy at the moment is exploring these other options for accommodation which are cheaper. But clearly not many people in the Bibby Stockholm, even more of a delay now, and clearly questions being asked about the timeline of how all of this happened and to see what will happen to those migrants who've been moved off.
Amanda, extraordinary stuff, and we're going to keep discussing this. I just want to bring in, first of all, a soundbite we have from the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick. This was 2 days ago. He was addressing the conditions on the barge.
The apparent refusal of some people to accept perfectly decent accommodation on this barge. You've got to remember that this is a form of accommodation that's being used in Belgium, in the Netherlands, has been used by British oil and gas workers. And so, you know, if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for the migrants as well. We'll always house people in decent, legally compliant accommodation. I genuinely believe that the UK has the most comprehensive plan of any European country to tackle this issue.
Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick 2 days ago. Amanda, I just want to come back to one critical part of what you just told us, that the results of a test hadn't come back by the time people first started boarding, and then on the first day that they were boarded, the results had come back that showed some signs of this bacteria being present, and yet they've only been removed today.
That's what we understand. We're told that further tests are being carried out. We understand from our sources that the health and safety executive, their advice in these situations isn't necessarily for people to be removed, but further testing to be carried out in the hopes that the system will be flushed through. But clearly, I think, yeah, there will definitely be questions asked around this. Now, it's not entirely unprecedented for Legionella to be found in water systems, particularly kind of systems which aren't used very often, which clearly is the case with the barge or haven't been used for some time. There was a case in Portcullis House back in 2020. But clearly this is residential accommodation for these asylum seekers, hence the concern, hence moving them off today. We don't know how long that will be. We're told all the requisite health checks will be carrying out, and clearly we're awaiting updates to find out what's going to happen next with the Bibby Stockholm.